Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Saturday Morning Tech Show. My name is Todd Cochrane. It's been a couple of weeks since I did one of these. I was on travel to Texas. As a matter of fact, my suitcase is packed, and I'm headed right back that way this afternoon. But I have two esteemed guests with me this morning. We've got Anna McCaskey from SDR News. Good morning, Andy. How are you?
Good morning, and just turned past it. We just had the noon siren to go off, so it's officially afternoon here on the eastern U.S.
Well, that's very good. And of course, we've got Jeffrey Powers on the bottom slate this morning. Good morning, Jeffrey. How are you?
A little bit tired, but hey, it's nice and crisp here in Madison, Wisconsin.
And I'm going to tell you, your Skype image is just as it's like you're right in the same room. I mean, it is that good. I don't know what you're using for a camera there, but that thing is smoking. It's doing.
It's a lot of tweaking using the Logitech. It's the C910. It's not the latest one.
Nice. But
thank you.
Andy, you're on 4x3, but I think that's a function of bandwidth this morning. So don't be discouraged. So this morning, my son had to. He's in a competition this morning, so we had to wake up at 4 a.m. here and leave. My wife left.
Good for you. Builds character.
Yeah, my wife left the house at 5 a.m. to drop him off, and I got another one leaving here in 24 minutes to go do an SAT test. So it's fun time here early in the morning. So they, of course, them wrestling around at 4 o'clock in the morning woke me up, and I got up and. I said, I just get everything studio fired up. We'll be ready to go. And I went to start the Amazon Flash media server and, run my script like I normally do. And it came back about 2 minutes later and said, error. You can't do this because you're missing this. And I'm like, okay, I must have fat fingered something early in the morning. I deleted the instance and started over and no go. I can't get it to come up on my old script. So something has changed, and apparently my old script is no longer a valid script. So I'm going to have some assistance with somebody that knows a little bit more about this Amazon stuff than me. So I will be employing that person probably tomorrow. But today we're up on Ustream, which sucks because they play a lot of ads. So folks that are actually coming on, you'll notice we don't have as high quality video today, and you're stuck with ads. So I apologize. But speaking of ads, I definitely want you guys to take a few minutes and support our sponsor, Citrix GoToMeeting. I tell you, we've got, they have done something here absolutely amazing, guys. And I don't know if you have played with this or updated your app inside your iPad or your iPhone here in recent days, but you are now able to actually host a meeting with the iPad itself. You actually can start a meeting, and the tools that they put in this thing are pretty incredible. I didn't know that it was going to be possible to do this, but they've done it, and I really did not prep for this, or I'd show this on the screen today. We're going to do a demo of it in a couple of weeks, but the actual ability to host a meeting right in the iPad itself, and you can pull from cloud, basically from Dropbox. You can do writing on the screen. You can do standard stuff by bringing up websites and presentations. It's really incredible. And they've really stepped the game up with this new ability to host right from the iPad. Really meetings with today. I'm just everywhere all the time, and I have to have the ability to still hold office hours and work with the team to problem solve and do creative solutions and all that stuff. And with me being in different locations, my team being different locations, getting together is simply impossible. So, using GoToMeeting with HT Faces, it's like I can be anywhere now. And, it used to be I couldn't host a meeting with the iPad. I used to be able to attend. So now, I can have a meeting really in my car if I need to. using the app. But what were you going to say, Andy?
I have to chime in and share something that we did this past week with two very large corporations. And it's just a good example of how business is accelerating and the flexibility that is required and expected. In both of these particular large corporations, none of the tools that we could use. We couldn't use Skype. We couldn't use other services. There was the quote official solution that their corporate folks had put out. And so what was so interesting was to see how the individuals you were talking with recognized that what's happening in the mobile space, what's happening as far as the flexibility, time, place, and screen of choice for being able to interact with people on your team. And it was just like within the corporate environment, they hadn't gotten the word, and they were still trying to seek to control that. And I just think that that this new capability here that GoToMeeting has added really changes it, and that's the sort of thing and capability that's setting the pace. And companies are going to have to learn how to deal with it.
And it doesn't matter. Again, it don't matter where you're located. You can do anything anywhere, and sharing the screen and back and forth, and the built-in HD video. It's. I leave the app open when I'm here in the office, and the guys just jump in and went from the different offices. So it's, it works for me, and it really does. It's a piece of my arsenal that I would not give up. So you can get a free 30-day trial. All you got to do is go to meeting.com, visit gotomeeting.com, click on the try it free button, and use the promo code podcast. Remember to use the promo code podcast. Again, try GoToMeeting free for 30 days. GoToMeeting. Meeting is believing. So thanks for GoToMeeting for being a sponsor here. So anyway, let me go ahead and switch gears, and let's talk about the situation in New York City. I got a real big thing I want to talk about, government and the cloud. But you guys been following what's going on in New York? And I hear they're finally starting to get Lower Manhattan some power this morning. But I know all those data centers down there were out. Did any of you happen to follow the status.squarespace.com blog during the prolonged outage in Lower Manhattan?
That would be very interesting reading, I would think.
Well, they've got. Let me bring the actual. Oh, I didn't turn that on. Hang on. So let me show you what a company will go through to get. And this is the end result. And yes, you see a pipe. Hang on, it's buffering, of course, here. First thing this morning. It's a pipe. Okay, wait a minute. Come on, show me the video. Well, it doesn't want to show me the video for whatever reason. Well, anyway, long story short, that sucks. And that's been working fine. Why is this stupid thing not?
Yeah, it seems to be queued up here.
Yeah, it doesn't want to. Anyway, what they had to do was when the initial power went out, they were bucket brigading 17 stories fuel to the generator, to a 400-gallon tank to keep the tank full. And that would run them for about 10 hours. And then they would have to pump. They'd have to bucket brigade again. And the reason that they couldn't automatically refill their generator on the 17th floor was that the basement was under like 20 feet of water. So, the basement filled, and all their generators in the basement that were used to pump fuel and that provide additional power to the building was submerged. Now, think about that for a few minutes, and then think about bucket brigading fuel to keep your generators online. Now, they were pretty successful. They were able to get fuel to the roof, but they got bigger problems still. They have this infrastructure that was soaking in salt water for, 48, 72 hours. Now, when you have stuff soaking in salt water. And when I was in the good old U.S. Navy, active duty, and when something would get immersed in salt water, what did you have to do to decontaminate it? You had to spray it with fresh water. Otherwise, shortly thereafter that coming out of that salt mix, and you didn't have much time, rust would just attack. I mean, it would be almost instantaneous. So here you've got a basement with all the electrical circuits, circuit breakers, commercial panels, all sitting underneath all this water. And I'm sure they are really thinking about rinsing this thing down as soon as the basement gets empty. Maybe they are. I don't know. But long story short here, even though the power's coming on Lower Manhattan, Pier 1 may not be able to get their building powered up. So, first of all, why do we have data centers in Lower Manhattan? Probably because Upper Manhattan's too expensive. Two, should not a company like Squarespace or Gawker or Huffington Post or Lifehacker, some of the bigger known sites, shouldn't they not have had some sort of off-site redundancy?
Yeah, I'm very surprised that they didn't have some sort of automatic fallover with that. I can understand people who are involved in trading, high frequency trading. I mean, that's essential to have them physically close by. But for other types of services, it's very surprising that they are hosted there.
We had our own issue here a couple of weeks ago. Amazon Virginia data center specifically, we have redundancy in our critical operations, data delivery, our stats. Those are basically I call cannot fail services, and we've got the ability if a data center goes down, basically signals are, basically we're hitting that server all the time with a message saying, "Are you there? Are you there? Are you there?" And as soon as it doesn't get the "Are you there?" a whole sequence of things happen. It's a cascading script that basically flips us to another data center, and it's all done automatically. My text phone ring. On my text, I get a text. My phone rings. Angelo's phone rings, and we know there's an emergency. And even though that second data center takes over automatically, we have to, could this be a catastrophic event? Could it be something big? So we've actually got a third box that at that time, the script spools the third server up. The third server gets spooled at the same time the second server takes over. So in case something really goes bad, that third server is ready to go in another data center. So, we felt very good about our hosting CDN / redirect stuff, but as soon as but the rest of our stuff that we considered non-critical was down. And so okay, so how long is your outage going to be? Is your outage going to be 20 minutes? Is it going to be hours? Is it going to be 12 hours? And then what is the cost to have the, because this doesn't run on a little laptop. This runs on a pretty significant server with pretty significant memory resources and hard drives. And, it's not a baby by any means. And so and of course, it's multiple boxes. It's not just one. And each of those are at a significant cost each month. So, it'd been 3 years. We had never had an outage in the 3 years that we were on this service. And we were out 12 hours for basically, you could get to the blogs. You could get to some of the other stuff, but you couldn't get to the actual couple of primary websites. So, you got to look at it from a cost perspective. Okay, how much is this going to cost me if I want to have complete redundancy across the entire platform? And for us, it's not, it's a 5-figure bill. And that's a lot of money for a small company like us. So, I understand maybe why they don't have complete redundancy is because it's just incredibly expensive to do. But I think once you get to a certain scale, you have to really say, okay, what is the business value? If Squarespace had not been able to keep their generators fueled, and they're not out of the woods yet because if that generator fails, they would be down now for going on 6 days.
Yeah,
and that
but
would
with something like that, you just it was not you don't expect it. I mean, who would have thunk that 30 days ago that New York was going to go down in because of a hurricane?
well,
And I know that's no real excuse, but you know, when you're 17 floors up, you know, you have a little bit of feeling of invulnerability to something like a hurricane. So yeah, you're right. They should have had some sort of backup, especially with all the thousands of accounts that rely on Squarespace to stay up. So there's no excuse on that.
but don't you think if they would have went down for 7 days that they would be facing probably a mass migration of people leaving their service this
Oh
morning?
yeah, no doubt.
You know, and I just, you know, I hand it to them for, you know, they had to hump fuel. You know, they can you imagine the panic? I know we were in a panic when we were out, and you know, we're looking at everything that we have to, and basically we've got it now so that if we have another major outage like this, at least we have a status page that we fall over to and say, hey, here's what's going on, here's the status, you know, for the non-critical stuff. Because, you know, the non-critical stuff maybe isn't going to cost us business to be down. It doesn't look good, but I also have to weigh, you know, the total cost. But it's not, you know, and if you think about Lower Manhattan, and you know, I think there's one picture that I saw, you know, this explains it all right here. Look at this picture. This is out of the Wall Street Journal. And that's Verizon's flooded communication hub. You know, there's water in their lobby. And, you know, I just don't, you know, obviously power and interconnects are put in the basement and equipment is put in the roof. Maybe there's going to have to be some rethinking here where power is no longer put in the basement and power is put on the third floor or something. But this has to make some people really rethink things. Now, you know, I took the watch from about 6 p.m. to 1 o'clock in the morning here, watching the Northern Virginia data center that we were in and making sure that nothing went red. And, you know, I have to, you know, knock on wood here. We stayed online and their data center did not go into an actual you know, support by generator system. You know, it stayed online with power, but you know, it doesn't matter where you're at, Virginia, Arizona, there's always something that could happen, a tornado or whatever but you know, nothing is fail proof. But
and the converse of that, there was some coverage that was talking about the fact that the fortunate thing was that most of the plant was below ground, that had it been above ground, that the outage might be, you know, many times worse because everything would be laying on the ground.
Oh yeah.
As opposed to right now. In fact, some of the facilities that Con Ed have apparently kind of routinely flood. So they are aware of the problem. The transformers, switchgear, et cetera, is built to handle that eventuality, but they still have to get down and you know, physically clean out the area, make sure things are drained, and then throw the breakers and get back online. But and they were also talking about on subways that every you know, as you're in the cars and you see your red and green lights as you're going along, every one of those is a switch box that has to be, you know, cleaned, reset, and, you know, certified by hand. So those guys are walking all those tunnels and working on every piece of the system.
Well, you work on it after the scuba divers get out, because now they're still scuba diving because it's filled. The tunnel is filled from New Jersey to Manhattan. Think about that. It's full of water. It'll be lucky if it's months before that subway line is opened back up. You know, maybe they'll get it up faster, but you don't soak something in salt water, drain it, and get away scot-free. Not
Oh,
when
yeah.
there's wires,
Well,
old wires especially.
and even if it's fresh water, I know here in the Midwest, when Mississippi flooded, one of the great hazards were all the barges with 55-gallon drums of Lord knows what on
Right.
that, a lot of it corrosive in nature or unknown in nature, that just as bad as salt water.
Now, Andy, putting your engineering hat on. So imagine that here you've got a subway system that's 100 years old, 100 years plus. I'm sure some of the wires in it have been replaced, but imagine all this old wiring, and you know what happens to the outer shield of those
Oh, yeah.
wires. With time, they crack. So what has happened is you've had this nice deep soak, right? So what is with that deep soak? That water, hey, it looks for the path of least resistance, and it's going to get into those wire coils. So I would not even want to be around any of that equipment when they throw the switch, because it's going to be exciting.
So you're one of the few people that would know about Glyptol and Cosmoline as two friends in that situation.
So, yeah, but still, though, once that seawater is in that coil, it's only a matter of time then. That they're going to have years and years and years of trouble. It's, and I just shudder because I can't imagine it. You would think there has to be a lot of infrastructure, electrical infrastructure in that track, because it runs on electricity. So, wow. And maybe not. Maybe it won't be as bad because they put the power on the actual line itself. They're actually on the tie, on the railroad tie, and not the tie, but the track. So maybe the overhead stuff won't be as complicated to repair. So maybe it's just dealing with lights and emergency exits and all that stuff. But God, what a mess! And those guys are definitely. I would not want to have to be on that cleanup crew for sure. All right, let me go ahead and switch gears here. We've talked a lot about New York. And let's see if I have anything else. Did not stop. The folks are coming out for the mini. We'll talk about the mini here in a few minutes, but I want to talk about something more scary and something that should make all of you sit back and think a little bit. All right, are both of you using cloud for storage?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, yes, and.
Okay, so you got local and cloud storage.
Yes.
You got any business docs up in the cloud?
Yes, I do.
Any, how about PST files or anything like that from email, or if you got any backups of your email or, anything critical?
No, there's a major exposure that I have in the email area.
How about you, Jeffrey? You got stuff up in the cloud?
Well, I have an iPhone and an iPad. Yeah, it's definitely something's in the cloud. I use Google Documents, and yeah, so
any
I have stuff
tax returns or anything like that in the cloud?
Nothing like that. No.
Here's a statement from the EFF: mega upload and government's attack on cloud computing. Yesterday, EFF, on behalf of his client Kyle Goodwin, filed a brief proposing process for the court in the mega upload case to hold the governments accountable for the actions it took and failed to take when it shut down Mega Upload. And here's what this is all about. This Mr. Goodwin has asked for his data back. The government has told him to go basically fly a kite. And since Mr. Goodwin is fighting the government decided that it accessed Mr. Goodwin's Mega Upload account. They reviewed the contents of his files. Now, remember, Mr. Goodwin is a U.S. citizen. He was a customer of Mega Upload. Mega Upload's servers were seized because of the business practice of Mega Upload, and Mr. Goodwin is presumed innocent of anything that he is doing. That's at least presumption of innocence in this country. He's fighting the government to get his data back. So the government, again, I'm saying, has admitted that it accessed Mr. Goodwin's Mega Upload account and reviewed the contents of his files. So apparently, they searched through his data, and they have used that search against Mr. Goodwin by telling him that they don't think everything in his account is data that he has copyright to. Now, Mr. Goodwin does video production for high school football teams, and he was not the target of any criminal investigation. He was not part of the people being indicted with the Mega Upload case. So what the government has done is they're trying to shift the focus to this guy, trying really to distract both the press and the court from the government's failure to take any steps, much less reasonable steps required by law, to protect the property rights of a third party. And there was no warrant that has been executed. So this guy's privacy essentially has been violated. So with the government's approach here, that's basically saying that, and this is the contention of the U.S. government. They say when you put something in the cloud, you no longer have rights to ownership of that content. So that it says that because of the contract between Mega Upload and the server's host, basically limit the government's any property interest that he may have. And so basically the government has basically said they can do whatever the hell they want going into this account and look at his data. Now, this argument isn't limited in any way to Mega Upload. It would apply if the third-party host was Amazon S3 or Google Apps or iCloud. So here's a tactic that the government's playing, that if, I'm not saying that Amazon servers are going to be served or Google Apps or anything like that, but let's say they do. If the server you're on gets served because of a search warrant, if users try to get your property back, the government won't hesitate to comb through your property.
Okay. But two interesting things. As you were talking about that, I was just skimming the Ars Technica article. And one of the paragraphs that jumped out at me was, even worse, the government contends Goodwin uploaded music files with MD5 values matching the hash table values of pirated versions of popular music.
Right.
So I have to wonder if, how much of a what was the background motivation behind the screening of this content. But then the second thing, that maybe this is further justification or argument to the use of strong encryption on content that you might put up there.
Oh, interesting that you should mention that. USASAnctum.com swore not to create Mega Upload. Well, .com is about to start another cloud locker service. It's going to be called me.ga. And guess what he's going to do, Andy?
I should hope
everything
that he's going to take my recommendation.
Yes, everything that's going to go up into that new service is going to be encrypted on the fly through and on. Basically, it's going to, as it goes up, it will be encrypted, and you'll have to provide a key to unencrypt it when it comes down.
And then never expect that stuff when this website gets taken down and seized as well.
So he's going to have no servers in the United States, obviously. And so here's the thing. Okay, so now I remember a case recently where a lady had her data encrypted basically it was encrypted on her hard drive. And the U.S. government mandated you shall give up the password, because they felt that what was in that file was the incriminating evidence that they were looking for to make an indictment stuck. Well, the lady, I forgot what my password is. Now, I'll be honest with you. I could really forget a password. Thank God for password reset systems and, master databases with passwords in it, because I forget passwords all the time. But this lady was indicted on she was being investigated, search warrant, the whole 9 yards, something to do with money, but all of her stuff was encrypted. And she says, I can't remember the password. And this went on for months and months and months. And they're going to throw her in court for basically not being able to remember. I mean, throw her in jail for contempt of court for not remembering. But somehow the government was able to hard hack into it and basically reverse engineered it or whatever they did, used a password generator or something to unlock her locked data files. So it was moot point. She didn't have to remember the password because the government got in. So in this instance, obviously the lady had something to hide, and I'm not here to talk about whether or not she was guilty or innocent. We'll just give her the benefit of the doubt and say that she had nothing in there. But Andy, you put some stuff up in the cloud, or Jeffrey, you put something up in the cloud and you get it encrypted. The server that you're on gets seized because the knucklehead in the next account over has some kiddie porn on there, and all of a sudden the government comes to you and says, Jeffrey, give me your password. What do you do?
Give him my password.
Okay. What if you are a big First Amendment privacy? I mean, basically you believe that you have a right to privacy. They haven't, let's do a hypothetical here, play along. They say, you tell them, no, get a search warrant. I'm not, and personally, at this point in time, I have nothing to hide either. They want to look at it, fine. But I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt of being a rollover. I'm going to say, hey, you want to search? Fine. Go get your search warrant and then go ahead and search.
Oh, yeah. Definitely would ask for that search warrant first. But the reality is, I'm first of all, I'm not going to put my stuff into a untrusted and very janky systems such as Mega Uploads.
But remember, the way the government's status is here, these new rules apply to S3, apply to Apple iCloud. It's not just Mega Upload. The government has basically saying, if you have your stuff up in the cloud, because of the contract you have with the cloud provider, you no longer have a right to privacy. And we can
let me ask you this question. Do you ever foresee iCloud going down? Do you ever foresee Amazon S3 as a whole going down, being seized by the government simply because of the fact that they've got a few accounts that are pirating music or videos or pictures or whatever? No, it's not. That's never going to happen that way. Mega Upload happened that way because they were stupid and they had an end user license agreement that was just horrible. They didn't care about what was being put into their systems. They just wanted the money. And I would have never, looking in something like that, I would have never signed up for that. If you look at everything that you have up in the cloud, including your Gmail account, you know that they can look at that at any time, and they can take parts at any time, and they can use it against you at any time. So why would I go with something that's not going to, as a whole, protect themselves and then start blaming you? I have absolutely no sympathy.
Okay, here's
for
the
Mega Upload.
I'm not defending a Mega Upload, but here's the bigger issue. And I pretend to a lot of stuff the EFF puts out. EFF, finally, in their statement, says, ultimately, if the government doesn't feel any obligation to expect the rights of Mega Upload customers, and it clearly doesn't, it's not going to suddenly feel differently if the target of its next investigation is a more mainstream service. The scope of its seizure here was breathtaking, and they took no steps to engage what the law calls minimization, either before its search and seizures or afterwards by taking steps to return property to cloud computing users who it knew would be hurt. And now the government is trying to use standard contractual language to argue that any user of a cloud computing service has at best severely limited ownership rights in their property. So what it is, what this ultimately is this is a new tactic by the government that's basically saying, you don't own your property once you upload it. And why? Once you don't own it, you have no rights to privacy. We can look and smell in it and taste it. So, Andy, if they're using this,
you might want to take a look at Pogo Plug stock and see how it's been doing, because if that's a terabyte drive sitting in my basement hooked up to my little Pogo Plug, then that becomes a little bit different situation, I would expect.
well, the question really to be asked is, okay, so if they will look at this material over a court case, what are they looking at in the cloud services just because they can? Are they going in and looking through records and keyword searching and, hey, you don't own it no more. It's all they got to do is go to the to Amazon S3 or Apple and ham them a piece of paper says we're going to search your cloud. They don't, and if you say something, we'll shut you down. I'm not saying they're heavy-handed doing that. I'm not saying that at all, but it could happen. And the scope of this could go way beyond what is being talked about here. If they'll do this in a court case, they will absolutely not hesitate for other, how should we say it, other situations, national security or something to that effect. Again, I have nothing to hide, but I find it very, very scary that the government is basically at this point have agreed to basically put on this. And so let's back up here. When you're working with an employer, your employer says, whatever you put on our network, we can look at. When you are a government employee, you sign a piece of paper, whatever you put on the network, we can look at. That's part of an employment agreement. But when I'm a private citizen and I'm putting something up in the cloud and someone wants to go look at my data, and if I don't know that they're looking at my data, it's that's a little bit unnerving, to be quite frank.
Let's look at it this way. You're in Aurora, Colorado. You're in an apartment adjacent next to what I can't remember his name right now.
Yeah,
and you've and of course the police have just raided his place and diffused it and have pretty much evacuated everybody out of the building. How much right do they have to come into your place? Well, of course, you got to say, give me a search warrant and everything like that. But in the end, they can come in and they can look at your place. My phone's ringing. Sorry about that.
If they have probable cause, absolutely. But in order to go in and do a wholehearted,
oh no, they could sit there and go, has he ever been in your apartment? We really need to sweep to make sure that he hasn't put anything into your apartment, just to make sure there isn't another bomb in this building. And then you could say, oh yeah, go ahead and sweep my place to make sure that he hasn't done anything because he came over for a cup of sugar. Next thing you know, they're combing through your stuff and finding new stuff. It's not a witch trial.
I would almost
and the other factor is, the owner of the apartment that has put together a lease for you could also say, yeah, you could search every single apartment. I want to make sure there's absolutely nobody else that's going to do something as horrific as that in this situation.
I would almost bet that before they opened up his apartment, they had a search warrant. But the thing is, if a police officer comes to your door and they think a crime is being committed on the other side, they can come in for probable cause if they feel something is, that's still withstanding. But we're talking about digital data. We're not talking about mass murderers here.
Well, we're talking about you're renting out a space just like you're renting out an apartment.
Well,
that's my point.
Well,
and you have the agreement between you and the person that's renting the space out to you, and inside that user agreement, that's where all the everything is put into place and says, hey, you can do this, you can't do this, and if the government comes a knocking, we might just give them in bits and pieces of information.
Andy, do you think Apple would let the government come in and search through their cloud?
Don't know.
I get Jeffrey's point completely.
Yeah. I think that the notion of forcing it through our system of warrants in the judiciary is certainly a right that each person would have. But again, as a practical matter, I think there's a part of it that has to come back on the individual itself. If you've got content that is sensitive, then your freedom and ability to encrypt that is certainly something that you should be exercising.
The another article over RT.com, a judge has ordered the FBI to explain their internet spy plans. The FBI has been adamant about withholding information about their plan to ensure the government can access any encrypted email or messages sent over the internet, but now a federal judge says the agency needs to come clean. This judge took the side of the EFF this week in a case that's been disputed back and forth between Pennsylvania and Silicon Valley. And basically, the judge is basically, on Tuesday, the judge agreed with the plaintiffs that the Justice Department has been not exactly accommodating with the Freedom of Information Act paperwork filed by a San Francisco nonprofit, and said the FBI and other federal agencies will have to go back and reassess those requests, ordering a further review of materials previously withheld. And basically, the EFF on 2 occasions filed a Freedom of Information request on the secret surveillance blueprints the FBI has drafted, basically allowing them back doors into encrypted systems. And this is basically, they're looking at the Communication Assistance for Law Enforcement Act of 1994 that was designed to aid law enforcement efforts to conduct surveillance of digital telephone networks. So basically, the FBI understands that people are now using many other types of communication devices, and they obviously want to weigh in on all those devices. So, but they haven't been forthcoming on their plans. So here we go again. And again, it's in this case, it'd be something that the FBI I would assume, be required to get a warrant on if they're trying to review someone. But you know what? If you got a criminal network that's using Skype, how do they go and get access to the Skype data without, some cooperation with Skype themselves? So a lot of murkiness going on in the digital world at this point. It just kind of hit the news this week for some reason.
Just over here at the EFF site, I see they have a white paper when the government comes knocking, who has your back, and it certainly would be some interesting reading. The other thing I saw here at the top that I saw in conjunction with Sandy is this open wireless movement that EFF has been talking about, and how that could actually help in these sorts of emergency situations.
There's a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of people are concerned. I personally, I think that I guess I kind of look at it a little differently. I spent nearly 25 years defending people's right to say what they want to say, and I also, along with that, comes a whole bunch of other rights that we have in this country. And I get real nervous when all of a sudden those rights continue to be whacked away at. And, I'm not of the view that a lot of folks that are in the conspiracy theory is that, the government's spying on everything. I just don't think that is possible. But at the same point, you definitely don't want to be in the crosshairs of something that's going sideways. And, with all the stuff going on today, you just wonder, you really do, how much our basic rights as a country are being infringed upon. And as an individual, I'm not so worried about it, but as an overall thing, it concerns me. Let's talk about the iPad Mini. What's your guys' thoughts on the iPad Mini?
I have to admit, this is the first time ever in Apple history that Apple has actually taken a step back in technology, period.
I think I have to agree. Andy, what do you think?
Why do you say it's taking a step in technology? I just think it's a market positioning thing to fill a void in the product line.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. It does fill that void. However, what they did was they basically gave you an iPad 2 in a smaller form factor.
That's true.
I remember a year and a half ago, they were talking about having an iPhone mini, and they kept saying, "Oh yeah, this iPhone mini is going to come out," and the rumor mill was saying it's going to be 8 GB in size, and it's going to have this resolution of the screen, which was less than the iPhone. And I said it then, and I said it now. Apple doesn't take steps back in technology. They don't go back to old technology. When the printer port, the LPT port was done, they took the LPT port out of the computer. When the USB ports are done for a computer, they're taking it out. They just touted with the iMac that their biggest problem with the iMac was that optical drive, and they took it out. And they give you an option for it, but in the next 2-3 revisions, you're not going to see an optical drive at all. They don't go backwards in technology and put something back in. And this time with the iPad mini, they came back and they put in an A5 processor, and they put in the old resolution screen, and they put in the only thing I guess they found out there was actually stereo speakers in the iPad mini, which is probably the only advance in iPad technology that we've seen with the mini.
I think I don't call it an iPad mini. I think it's a grown-up iTouch. So if you look at it from that perspective, being a grown-up iTouch, they did advance because they made the iTouch better.
Yeah.
No, the iTouch has an A6 processor. The iTouch has Retina display.
That's true.
The iTouch it doesn't even it's taking a step back no matter how you look at it.
Okay, but in technology life cycle or product planning terms, what you have is between the iPhone and the iPad itself, there was this gap, and that was where competitors were rushing in. So the question is, what's the minimum viable product that you can throw into the breach? And that's what the iPad Mini 1 is. I expect that they'll be very quickly, first of all, they'll come down the price point. After Christmas, they'll go ahead and harvest
Black
those
Friday.
gains. And then they'll still have that product there, the iPad Mini 1. And then they'll come in iPad Mini 2. That will begin to restore parity with the iPad 4.
I think,
and then at that point, there'll be a roll in the iPad.
I think they a little overpriced it. I think if they'd have been about $40 cheaper, it'd have been a little better on a price point.
They can't ship the orders they got now.
So they've already sold out on the orders that they've had? Well, I tell you.
If you make half the orders of what they normally make with an iPad, you're going to sell out on that.
Yeah, it's hard.
If you only have 100 up for pre-sale, then you can sell out on 100. They didn't really say how many they had up for pre-sale.
And
they didn't say how many they shipped to the stores.
Here's an indication though of how well they're selling. Near record turnout for iPad Mini in the Big Apple. So it didn't change the number of people that were they did some line counts, and it's just about the same number of people. So I don't know. It's we'll see when the earnings report comes out, but I'm not going to run out and buy one. Now I'll tell you what I did buy. I bought a Surface, and it's in my computer bag. I don't have it here in the office. I'm not sold yet, for sure. There's people that are talking positively about it, and there's people that are talking negatively about it. I'm going to try to use it. I do have a copy of Windows 8 Pro, a couple of copies sitting here. I'm going to upgrade a couple of machines. Have any of you upgraded any Windows machines yet?
I have. The machine I'm on right now is Windows 8.
So do you like it?
The start option gets a little bit difficult to navigate at first, but you actually can put in shell options to actually put your start button back. That's the biggest thing. Is if you look on the bottom left-hand corner, there's no start button.
Right.
You go to the bottom corner and then there's a start screen, and you pull up the start screen, and that shows everything up. The only other problem I've had with this computer is apparently I've been getting some blue screen errors because of the network card, and I sent a message over to Asus and said, hey, this is my motherboard, and it keeps coming up with a blue screen because of the network card. Can you please update the drivers? And then I just have to wait for the driver update for the card and go from there, and then have to deal with these blue screens every now and then.
I haven't updated largely because this machine here, because LiveText I don't think is working with Windows 8 yet. LiveText is what I use to do this, bring up the actual screen. So I got to wait to update LiveText, or wait for update to LiveText for Windows 8. But I just playing with the RT, the Slate, Windows. It's a Windows RT on the Slate. I definitely think that the $129 keyboard is probably needed. The actual little cloth, I call it cloth or flexible or whatever it is, keyboard that came with it isn't bad. I don't know. The resolution on it, if they had made the resolution higher, that would have been a good thing. It's beautiful. It looks nice. It's small. It's heavier than the iPad. Obviously, it's a little bigger than the iPad. And it's just a little more awkward to hold. It's close, but it's just not. It's not quite there. I wouldn't necessarily recommend anyone go out and buy a Slate or basically buy this Surface. Look at the other options that are out there. And but boy, I tell you, it's everywhere you turn, there's a Windows 8 advertisement somewhere. They're almost as thick as the political advertisements are right now. So, but
one of the things kind of got buried here in the past couple of weeks, though, which maybe you've addressed on a Chrome show, is the new Samsung Chrome boxes that have come out. Have you had a chance to take a look at them?
Yeah, I did look at them. I'm not going to order one this time. I'm going to, basically kind of set out this round. It is a nice laptop, though. They've done a nice job. The Chromebook I've got that I've been using has been fine, and it works good. And, one thing I find as a limitation is on using the Chrome ecosystem is I deal a lot still in documents and in spreadsheets that I have to send clients, and or even PDFs. There's really no way to manage easily in the Chromebook a limited number of actual hard documents that you need to be able to have access to. An example, I sent the CES 2013 mailing list yesterday a attachment that came out of my drive, and still kind of clunky. I don't know if you guys got to open that up or not, but it's not in a format that I would want to send a client. So that's been part of my challenge. And basically using Chrome almost exclusively. I still use Excel, and I still use Word, and put together presentation documents and stuff with PowerPoint and create PDFs and so forth. So, I don't know. I think that's my biggest. It's great for surfing the web and doing email but it's just that document. There needs to be a little better way you need a little big place to put actual docs, and you need to be able to attach and do that kind of stuff easily within the Chromebook. So let's switch gears here. A couple years ago, that guy that's holed up in that embassy in Europe, the WikiLeaks guy, he I guess he's still holed up there, but there's a new group. Called Ghost Shell. Ghost Shell released 2.5 million Russian government documents, And there's a war being waged on Russia government infrastructure. Basically, they've dumped all this on a GitHub, and the hackers claim to have taken 2.5 million accounts and records from government departments, as well as education, academia, political, law enforcement, telecom, research institutes, medical facility records, and data from large corporations. And not only that, they say they have a whole stack of other stuff that comes from the FSB. Now, what the FSB, more commonly referred to as the KGB, the FSB is a Russian intelligence service. They say they've got a whole bunch of documents from them, and they're threatening to release those too. So I guess the Russians have got their own WikiLeaks thing going on. So it sounds like that the shoe is on the other foot now. So the question is anyone safe? If they're going in and getting these, these hackers are being pretty aggressive. It makes you wonder if anybody's data is safe anymore. Any comments or thoughts?
Got to be safer than what it was 10 years ago.
Just reading quickly through here, 2.5 million accounts.
So anyway, I'm sure that'll be a windfall of data for someone. Or what do you think about Apple getting their hand slapped pretty hard by a UK government, or actually a UK judge? Basically, when Apple put up their apology letter, they did it quite how should we say it, snarky, and the judge in the matter was not very happy, and basically called them back into court and slapped the lawyers around, said you shall fix this, and there needs to be. He made. There was an affidavit that had to be signed by the CEO, and so they have republished their legal statement in the newspaper and online. So Apple
so say you're sorry like you mean it.
Right. It's just one of those, I'm sorry, and they're winking at us, and, flipping the bird at the same time. Did you guys get as much humor out of that as I did?
What's the billing rate? I mean, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars were used there? It's just a way to kind of like, pump the bill just a little bit more.
Yeah,
I'm in the wrong job.
And I'm sure that they worked for weeks on that statement,
Oh, yeah.
And every and it probably went through 25 reviews, and then the judge says, "Give me an eraser. let me X like 5 paragraphs out of this thing." And
it's all billable hours.
That's true. It is. And they're all on staff, so it's just salary. They don't have to worry about billable hours. It's just the guy's highfalutin salary. So. I just giggled about it the whole time. All right, have any of you guys ever had a cell phone stolen?
No, I've been lucky enough not to have that happen.
How about losing one? You ever lose one?
No.
Okay.
No, but a friend of ours actually just posted on Facebook. She lost one last night.
iPhone?
Yeah.
Did she have Find My Phone turned on?
No, she said she didn't.
Oh man,
I do.
Yeah, me too. I told you guys about finding my wife's iPad that she lost in her car, right? Okay. So here's what's going on. Stolen cell phone database has been switched on in the United States. This is a major step towards curbing the rising numbers of smartphone thefts with the introduction of a database that will block stolen phones from being used on domestic networks. So this is big. This is a long time coming. It should have been implemented a long time. There's a huge infrastructure for people just ripping stuff off. And then, so basically what's going on now is that if you call your carrier and you say, I have either lost or I have had my phone stolen, and if all recovery has been failed, they now put your phone's internal data in a database, and if someone goes to try to turn that on, The database blocks the IMEI number, which is obviously something that's unique to each cell phone. It's basically the same as like a VIN to a vehicle. And the ID remains the same, and no matter what SIM is used. And basically, they're trying to shut down this criminal infrastructure of people being able to cell phones and basically get them reactivated. Now, I just wonder how much of a, we're going to see now probably some attempt for people to change the IMEI number, but we'll see if that hack gets put out on the marketplace. But I think this is big. And I had a buddy of mine that lost his cell phone last week. He basically went and found my phone, and he was tracking it for about the first 20 minutes, and then it went offline and hasn't come back since. Basically, whoever ripped it off shut it down. And, of course, when the phone's off, it can't be found. But I told him, I says, well, one thing's for sure. Someone tries to sell it now and put it online, they won't be able to get it activated. I think this is going to put a dent in criminal activities on cell phones, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, yes and no. I mean, they can still rip it apart and sell the parts separately.
Yeah, but no one's rebuilding cell phones, though, right? No one's parting out cell phones. I don't think.
Kind of wanted to do this with the iPhone 5, and that was wait to see if a couple months down the road, if I could buy every single part I needed on eBay
and put
actually
one together.
Do
a Frankenphone? Is that what you wanted to build?
Yeah. see if it could be done.
Oh, that would be kind of a cool little project.
Yeah. I think the other thing is there may not be a U.S. market for a smartphone, but they, if they don't have value here, they may have value in other regions of the world.
But don't you think the majority of phones, which are picked up in bars and at airports, and people, let's be honest, you see a phone sitting there. And if the person has no qualms, they're going to grab it and keep it for themselves. It's going to stop those kinds of, if you have a criminal enterprise that's sending phones overseas, that's a whole different issue. You're not going to stop that. But I think it's largely going to make a lot of people more resilient in returning phones for a reward. If you know that the phone, if it publicly gets out that phone cannot be reactivated because of a new SIM, and people more, as dishonest as honest people are, and make those honest people more inclined to get it back to the owner for a small reward. I guess that was a mouthful. So, I've found phones in the past and turned them in. And sometimes I'm afraid to turn stuff into people's lost and found, because I don't know how good some groups, especially if you're in a big public place, it gets thrown in a box and it's never seen again. But I've always tried to get a phone back, and if it's not locked, I've looked through the phone book and tried to figure out who the owner is and get it back to him. So had that happen a couple of times already over the years, and have been successful in getting people's phones back. But yeah, nothing worse than I just wonder how many people walk around with their phone unlocked. It's more of a pain to put the code in, but I'm pretty anal about it now and locking my phone with a passcode. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. Report out. It's basically saying that Microsoft is no longer in the top 10 list of basically operating systems that are being vulnerable. And right now, the top 10 products with security vulnerabilities, the top two are Java. The number third is a Flash player issue. Adobe Reader, Apple QuickTime, Apple iTunes has a huge number. Winamp AVI, Adobe Shockwave, and Adobe Flash Player. So Adobe right now is basically king of the hill from the number of vulnerabilities in their system. And with Java being, of course, the top two, I don't know about you guys, but I'm about sick and tired of getting a Java update like every 3 days. It just seems like you wake up every morning, there's a Java update. It's just
and you go in and you turn it off. I don't want to be updated ever again, and it just completely ignores it and still sends you a new one.
Yep. I got one last article for us, and then we'll kind of open up. We'll just chat here a little bit. But BitTorrent Pryor ordered to pay $1.5 million damages for sharing 10 songs, largely because he didn't show up to court. Are people stupid? They get a summons that you're going to be, you're going to be going to trial for your case, and it's like people put their head in the sand, think this stuff is going to go away. But a porn site has gotten $1.5 million in damages against one individual because he just didn't show up to defend himself, and the defendant. The folks that were going after this guy basically got everything they want in their, in their suit. So, I don't understand what people are thinking about. I'm sure he's wishing now that he'd at least showed up to court and said, "I'm sorry, and I won't do this again," or whatever. But maybe he thought this was just going to go away.
I don't know. I think that was covered in Slate, or one of the things I read about the incident here this past week, and apparently what this fellow didn't realize is that when he had downloaded some of these movies, that his account watermark went into the file.
Ooh.
And then so he decided that he liked them so much that he would share it with his friends and put it up on BitTorrent, and that was the end of that.
Yeah. Just goes to show peer-to-peer doesn't pay. Hey, so let me talk to you guys just a little bit about the upcoming voting, and not necessarily about the election itself, but what do you think is going to happen with this East Coast situation and voting? I just almost going to bet that come Tuesday, when people can't vote, there's just going to be an absolutely people screaming at the top of their lungs. It's not fair. Whoever wins, I think there's going to be lawsuits, and where do you think we're headed Tuesday?
There are a couple of things that they did put into place. First of all, they're going to have trucks going around New York and New Jersey area, where it'll make it easier for you to go vote. So they'll technically be coming to you, but they've also implemented a 1 week post vote. I don't know what they call it, but basically you can if you are not in the position to go vote at that point in time, you have a week to actually submit your vote,
like a provisional ballot sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to do that because by federal law, they have to have the election on Tuesday. It'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out. I luckily here in Hawaii, I don't get to see any federal or no presidential ads because they've, basically the president has it pretty much wrapped up in Hawaii because of the way the state is. But are you guys about sick and tired of seeing political ads on the Bloob Tube?
I've just been
there
laughing.
was a piece on NBC where they interviewed this Ohio couple, and the Ohio couple was saying that they were going nuts because it was like from 5 o'clock in the morning until late at night when they went to bed, there was nothing on TV except commercials for political ads. And my wife and I looked at each other and said, "Why don't you just turn off the TV?"
Or better
Problem
yet,
solved.
turn on a show like this and watch this. Here we are talking about the political ads.
And yet Ustream every 3 minutes inserts their own little ad, which just probably happens to be a political ad.
Yeah.
The funny thing is I just love how the commercials are going, because it just seems to be one ad after another, and they're just plastered on top of each other. So it's like you have the Democratic candidate, and then the commercial right after it is the Republican candidate, and it's like they were just given, okay, you got to put out 50 of these ads in a given day, and they're just kind of putting them all in so they can get as much money as they want or they can during this whole time, because that's how the TV stations and the radio stations see it. Is that's That's
The
$4
windfall.
all day long, per ad. So why
Well,
not put them wherever we can?
this is a line item in every television and radio station's budget across the country. They know every 2 years and of course every 4 years that they're going to see this huge spike in advertising and
Make as much as they can. Yeah.
and they're mandated federally on how much they can charge. So they just know they're going to have so much, and it's I'm just glad. Of course, here it's all the local stuff, and it has gotten so negative in Hawaii, and we never have negative campaigns. It's always, oh, with Aloha, but this year it's like, he did pay for play, and he did this, and he did that, and she did this, and she didn't vote, and it's just, I sent my absentee ballot in a week ago. Doesn't matter. I've voted, so.
Okay, so here's what it actually I've already voted too. I voted last week. But what they did, they said New York State extended the deadline for absentee ballots to be received and counted 13 days after the election
Wow.
from 7 days because of the postal delays by the storm. And I think that's where they're getting around with that is because of the fact that the postal workers, the post offices aren't up and running to 100%.
So if it's close in New York, I don't know, what is New York normally go? Is it normally a Democrat state or a Republican state? How does it go? Do you guys even, they got that big chart of which states are going to be, it's probably not going to matter. And I think we'll know who the president's going to be on Tuesday night.
It's going to be decided by some guy over here in Ohio, in a
Right.
town of 4,000 that decides whether, he's going to have another cup of coffee or whether he's going to go stand in line.
They say that they're saying that the swing states. I'm from Wisconsin. We're in a swing state. We've had both candidates come. In fact, Barack Obama was going to be here in Madison on Monday with Bruce Springsteen. So I'll probably go and check out Bruce Springsteen because it's Bruce Springsteen.
I guess he was in some teen magazine as well here a couple of days ago. That's a great reading for me, of course. It's just I'm glad the season's going to be over one way or the other. But here's what I predict. If the president wins, everybody that is a government employee better get their resumes out. There's $100 billion in federal cuts that are going to happen in January, and I just don't see any way that will be avoided. And then if Romney wins, I think what you will find is that the government employees all can breathe easier because he will probably fix the $100 billion issue and kick the can down the road a little further. That's my prediction. Now, I just re-signed my, matter of fact, let me show you guys. My loan paperwork for my home, my refinance. And basically, I went from lowered my interest rate quite a bit, lowered my home payment $488. Woohoo! That was huge.
Wow.
Yeah, and I only went down. Well, when I bought this place, I was at 5.9, went to 4.5 on a first refinance, and normally you would never refinance twice, but I went from 4.5 to 3.25. And no points. And essentially my payback is a few financing fees of 3 months. So I've lowered my house payment $488. That is just incredible on a second refinance. And normally you wouldn't do that, but it was just such a huge amount. Now I got my house within rental range. But here's what my the guy that did my loan said. He said that on interest rates, that if the president's reelected, the prediction is that the economy outlook will worsen and interest rates will not go up. If Romney wins, he says interest rates will go up because they feel they're speculating that the economy will get better. So that's what the financial people are predicting on home mortgage rates based upon who gets elected. And I just thought that was from what he said, was pretty incredible. So I guess if you want the home interest rates to stay low, you vote for the president. If you don't care and want the economy to get better and don't care if the interest rates go up, you vote for Romney. So, and so anyway, this is one guy telling me this story. So I have no clue how much truth there is to it, but he told me it was probably a good week to have signed the loan because of the uncertainty.
There is one thing that I found really funny through this whole campaign, and yeah, I don't want to get too political on this either, but it kind of gets in the back of my craw there, and it's talking about taking jobs overseas, and I've been seeing a lot of commercials where it's basically says that Mitt Romney has been taking jobs overseas and closing down plants and stuff like that, and I watched the debates. And the one thing that just really, I just couldn't believe that they didn't throw out as a major, I don't know if this would actually help or hurt them, but back when Obama gave the State of the Union, he gave this heartfelt, touching Steve Jobs, and we need to go forward and get thinkers like Steve Jobs. I'm surprised that there's not one person that's basically went back and said, you just talked about Steve Jobs, who was like the number one person that would tell you every single time, I'm going to take my product to China to get it developed because it's going to cost less and I'm going to make more money off of it. And I'm just floored that nobody has done that. And it's come up with a commercial saying, why are you promoting something like this? And then turn around and use Steve Jobs' face as the spokesperson when you know that Steve Jobs would have never brought the jobs back to the United States. It just wasn't going to happen. And it just floors me that they didn't use that at all.
Well, I have one simple opinion on the whole political thing, and I think it's just probably sums it up in a couple of words. Fire them all. Fire them all. Get rid of the whole slate. Come in with a brand new clean slate, but the chance of that is happening are slim to none. Hey, I want to share with you guys a special deal. I've been watching. You guys are familiar with Digital Juice? DigitalJuice.com?
No.
This is a site that has different types of stuff, but they all of a sudden from time to time have specials, and they email you to death. I'm just fair warning, they will email you 3 times a day with stuff going on, so you do have to put them in a special inbox. But like right now, they've got some mini burst lights for $149 each. They're LED mini burst lights, and they're not too bad. They come as a kit, and they sell other stuff too, like dollies and all kinds of other stuff. But they also sell templates for backgrounds, and none of this stuff is relatively inexpensive, but every once in a while they do come out with specials when they have overstock. I have a couple of these mini bursts. These are what I'm going to be using for my green screen while I'm on travel, and they're small enough that they should work out well to get me enough so I can get a better key when I'm in these dark hotel rooms. But anyway, just
have you got them yet, or have you just ordered them up?
I have 2 of them already, and I paid about $30 more each for them. The only thing,
they machined, it looks like machined aluminum.
Yeah, machined aluminum, and they're not bad.
Nice.
And the only thing is, I wish they would dim down just about another 10 or 15%, but they're not bad. And I'm going to tell you, from an LED standpoint, if you're thinking about buying any LED products, it's probably a good time to do so. With the light panel lawsuit that's in progress, it may not be long before there's going to be some import restrictions to LED lights, just because of the lawsuit that's going on. I don't know where that's at in the trade thing, but they have a monopoly on a bunch of patents, and they're trying to shut down a bunch of stuff as the trade goes when it comes to LED stuff. But I'm telling you,
so you need to sign up for your Bug Me Not email. That's your first step.
Bug Me Not?
I think that's the name of it.
What is that?
Bug Me Not is okay. No, maybe I'm confusing that with something else. That is something to bypass compulsory registration for different sites that you go to.
I see.
Such as New York Times, Chicago Tribune, etc.
Right.
There are burner email sites. So that's the first thing you need is a burner email account, right?
For this digital juice.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely they will annoy you, but they, about once a month, something will come in and I read the headlines. I really don't look at the emails, but about once a month, a deal will come in. You'll be like, oh, I need to look at that. And because they'll basically buy a bunch of stuff and then they end up with a small amount left, and then they'll try to get rid of it at a lower price. That's what generally happens with them.
Okay.
So anyway, that is
Speaking of green screen, I'm actually going to be writing an article on my website, howtorecordpodcasts.com, that might interest you next week. It'll be coming out next week, and I'll be talking a little bit about a way to do green screening.
I don't have an issue doing green screening. Wirecast keying sucks. I mean, I'm so spoiled with the TriCaster. It'll key on a T-shirt. I mean, it's, and then you're dealing with the Wirecast keyer. You just got to have enough ambient light to get over that threshold. And when you're in a hotel room and you're dealing with 140-watt bulb that's on a desk, that don't cut it.
That's why I'm going to suggest this, and of course take it however you want. But it's going to be coming up this next week on my website.
Cool.
Howtorecordpodcast.com.
Definitely, we'll check it out. Well, guys, did you guys have anything that you found this week that was cool, or what's going on with you, Andy? What's new? What's happening?
Well, still getting geared up to do a little coverage for an event here, technical event, and so that's the big thing that we've got going right here at the moment.
Are you guys getting cell phones from our favorite people anytime? Did you guys get asked to do that?
No, not that I know of.
Jeffrey?
Actually I did.
Okay,
yes.
So you and I both will have.
I'm not with the cool kids, so I didn't get the request.
Yeah, I'm surprised that I've got the request. They haven't talked to me in a long time, so.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm getting a cell phone from them, and so what's the tech event? Can you say, Andy?
Yeah, it's HP Discover.
Oh, cool.
And, so we're getting geared up. We've got. It's going to be the maiden voyage for the ATEM,
nice.
And getting set up to get kind of beyond webcams for this type of event. Getting a lot of coaching and assistance from Jamie over at Podmedics, so that's been much appreciated, and just arrived.
Oh,
this is something that. Jeffrey's been talking about.
So which one is that? That's the Vixia
300.
Vixia, what's the V300 or something?
HFR 300.
HFR 300. Hey, so by the way, did you look at did you still have two TriCasters?
I do indeed. Yes. We need to. Do I need to talk with someone?
What you should do is you need to sell those two TriCasters immediately and buy that new TriCaster.
I have been talking with the TriCaster dealer about that.
Will they buy them, or will they trade them in, or?
I haven't quite got to that point. The issue was the DDRs.
Oh, you're having problems with the DDR?
No. I'm trying to remember on the 40 if there was two DDRs on that.
No, only one.
Only one. Yes.
Yeah. But I'm going to tell you that it's a nice box.
Mm-hmm.
So you think you need two DDRs?
I just once you get used to doing that, having it set up that way. Although in reality, we use the second one mostly as a frame store.
Well, here's the thing about that new software. They're side panels, so you can set up one DDR, but with multiple side panels.
So a side panel is like a frame store?
But basically, you set up your playlist in a panel, and then you select another panel, and you can set up another playlist in another panel. So there's a little panel, and I don't. Can I show you? I have no way of showing you. No, you can't see it. Basically, there's a little side panel that pops out next to the DDR, and that's how we do titles and put different graphics in panels. But same thing works on the DDR. You can have multiple panels of multiple playbacks. So if you're just worried about making playback list, the panels really. I very rarely use my second DDR here in the studio because I use the panels. But that new box, man, it's pretty nice. Now, again, from what your infrastructure, what you're coming from and going to, that thing would be perfect, and I think you'd be real happy with it. If I had not built my portable system, and really my portable system's not. I'm having challenges with my portable system, and some of it's operator error. I tell you, it doesn't travel well on the airlines. It gets beat up pretty bad, that case does. I have to figure out a different, I'm on the second same case, but the lid's getting bent, and I've went to the point now where I'm bungee strapped the lids on. I have Velcro over the actual lids to keep, basically the lids is where the issue is. And
yeah, that's one of the things. Of course, I haven't seen how this rig travels yet. That would be one of the concerns I had based with the previous TriCasters and shipping and just the physical part of it. The ATEM seems to be
it takes a beating.
A lot more rugged.
Yeah, it takes a beating for sure. Now, knock on wood, so I'm on like my third or fourth trip with mine, and you don't know until you get it on the road how it's really going to do. But really, if the folks at Telestream would listen, I swear to God, they're idiots over there. They do not listen. If they would, they have such an opportunity to be able to take they could make Wirecast integrate with the ATEM, and this thing would be an incredible solution. Right now, you have to have the ATEM switcher and the Ustream switcher, and not the Ustream, the ATEM switcher and in Wirecast. Basically, you have to get lower thirds. I use the lower thirds on Wirecast, and then it's a pain to switch. And if they would tie that to, where it would switch the ATEM when you selected you wouldn't even need that ATEM control panel. And I don't know why they won't do that, why they don't listen. I think part of it is they want everyone not to buy an ATEM. They want everyone to have a solution that is all in one box, all in one laptop. But
you don't have the bandwidth.
No, not the processor bandwidth. Right.
Yeah.
But, you can't tell them nothing. You really can't. In a year from now, we had this great idea. We're coming out with this. And you're like, what did I tell you guys? And so, it is what it is. But
hey, tell me about Blog World. You guys are getting excited about that?
It's not Blog World. It's New Media Expo.
New Media, I'm sorry.
And
the old name has become, everything old is new again.
Yeah.
Everything new is old, whatever.
Yeah. Well, the only really participation I'm going to have is for the podcast awards. I am not, we're going to be hot and heavy CES stuff right at the same time. So I'm going to show up for a couple hours for the podcast awards, and then I'm going to bounce. I don't know I think Angelo may be going to rep us, but other than that, I don't have any active role. But, I think they're doing a good job trying to reach out to the content creators. I haven't seen the sessions yet that Cliff has put together for this year's event. It's going to be the only event this year. They're not having a New York event. They're only having one event in Vegas. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how the turnout is.
If they had scheduled it any other week of the year, I would have been there.
Yeah. So speaking of CES, we've got a meeting this afternoon. We're going to talk about that. And you need to have your team get in there and get that spreadsheet updated too. So we can get some arrival dates and who actually is coming on your team as well to the event.
Okay.
But yeah, a lot of stuff in work. I talked to our rep at CEA earlier this week, and we are locked into our location outside of North Hall. We're guaranteed that position. And we are broadcast studio number 2. That's the how they're labeling us. And then the folks that are in broadcast studio 1 are in Gadget. So they're going to be probably about 200 to 300 feet from us. And have not heard if there's going to be anyone taking over Leo's location, seeing that Twit is not going. So I don't know.
If we had to, we could we could go there. We could take that slot. If they
yeah, I'd love to have that location.
Huh?
I'd love to have that location.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm fine where we are.
But I think we've got a pretty good location outside of North Hall. But just trying to, this rig that Jamie has, I'd love to get a parts breakdown from him on how he's hanging that stuff. He was going to do a video for us, but it really wasn't very good. It didn't take time and actually look at each fixture and how he actually built that hanging rig of his. I'm a little bit concerned. Are you going to do a hanging rig, Andy, or are you going to use tripods, or what are you using at the
I'm
HB?
going to use tripods. I don't have enough time to get the hanging rig implemented properly.
I just wonder how, I don't know. I'm concerned about getting enough. I was watching some of Leo's stuff, and he's using those little cameras. I just don't know how close those cameras can zoom, and they were just, to me, the fidelity on that. I'll be curious to see your stuff, Andy, from these Vixias.
Oh yeah.
Well, I've been working with Sony and actually got a new camera that I've been playing with. This is the HDR XR260V handheld camera. And the one thing about this is not only you can get a remote control with this to do any type of zooming in and zooming out, the distance between your face to the camera is probably about 3 feet, because it does have wide angle implemented in there. But the other thing is it's also got a 160 gigabyte hard drive built in on this camera.
But the problem is
I could actually continue to record.
AVC HD though.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it has the HDMI out. It's got USB out. It's also got a microphone in and headphone out. So this could also be something that you could run around doing one-on-one interviews and get some great footage off of it. Yeah, you would have to convert it over to MP4 at the end.
Yeah.
But it definitely it holds 100. The battery life on this thing, just a standard battery, is amazing. And of course, like I said, 160 gigabytes. You don't have to worry about a single SD card. And I think that's probably the best thing. We could actually record all the interviews and then not touch the hard drive until the end of the event, and then pull it all off in one shot.
So Andy, does that HFR 300, does that have white balance and all that stuff in it?
I don't know. Well, I'll find out as soon as I do the unboxing here in the next 20 minutes or so.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, it does all the white balancing. It does all the focusing and everything like that.
Now, one thing that I've, I'm really thinking what my plan is I think I'm going to bring one big camera, and then we'll use the 2 little cameras for exterior shots. I think I'll make our primary shot the big camera, then the little cameras will be the supplement for close-ins and that type of stuff. So hopefully that will work out as a strategy. If it turns out that the 3 cameras work good, then we'll box up the big camera and we'll use it. But I just would feel a lot better having a little more lens behind the shot. And so it's just one of those things that we'll have to look at when we get there. Did you guys look over those pictures and everything I sent? Actually, I should stop the recording here. We're just going on and on and on. Yeah, someone says we're like eavesdropping on someone's physical discussing. We kind of wrapped up the tech show here a little bit ago, so we're at a point of just chatting at this point. Matter of fact, I'll stop the actual recording at this point. But everyone that's been watching, thanks for hanging out with us. We're going to continue chatting here for a little bit, but the actual recorded portion of the show is over. We'll see you next time here at the Saturday Morning Tech Show.